1. You swap out words mid-sentence. You start a sentence one way and finish it another. The precise word was right there, the exact term for what you meant, but something stopped you, a split-second calculation, and you swapped it for a simpler one. Not because you couldn't use it, because you could. You've been in the room when someone didn't make that swap. You watched what happened. The slight shift in energy. The jokes that came after. The way people stopped asking that person questions and started addressing them like a problem to manage. So you learned the rule without anyone teaching it to you. Stay legible. Stay approachable. Keep the vocabulary at a level that doesn't make anyone feel the gap. It starts as a choice. Then it becomes automatic. Then one day you catch yourself doing it mid-sentence, and you can't even remember when you decided this was just how you talk now. You didn't lose the words. You just stopped letting people hear them. 2. You let people explain things you already know. Someone starts explaining something. You read the paper they're summarizing 3 weeks ago. You could finish their sentences. You know exactly where the argument breaks down. But you nod. You tilt your head slightly. You ask a question you already know the answer to. You perform the experience of learning something for the first time. It's not patience. It's not kindness. It's a calculation you run so fast, it doesn't feel like a calculation anymore. Because you know what happens when you don't. When you finish the sentence for them. When your face gives it away half a second before they land the point. You've seen it. That flicker. The energy leaving the room. People don't say, "You made me feel stupid." They just get quieter around you. They stop bringing you into conversations. They find reasons to exclude you from things without ever naming why. So you learned to wait. You let them finish. You let them land it. You watch their face when they think they've taught you something. 3. You qualify everything you say. I could be wrong, but this is probably nothing. Take this with a grain of salt. You say it before the idea, before the observation, before the answer you already know is right. You don't actually think you're wrong. You've checked. You've thought it through from 4 different angles. The qualifier isn't doubt. It's armor. At some point, you noticed that certainty attracts a specific kind of reaction. Not from everyone, but enough people. The slight bristle, the need to poke holes, the sudden urge someone gets to find the flaw in what you said, not because they disagree, but because you sounded too sure. So you learned to sand the edges off before you hand anything over. Make it sound provisional. Make it sound like you're still figuring it out. Give people a way in, a gap they can fill, a caveat they can offer, so they leave the conversation feeling like collaborators instead of audience members. The qualifier becomes automatic. You stop noticing you're doing it. But strip it back and look at what's underneath. A person who already knew, who was right, who spent years learning to disguise that as a question. 4. You arrive at conclusions slower than you need to. You already know. You knew 2 minutes ago. Maybe when the question was still being asked. But you wait. You furrow your brow. You tap your pen. You ask a follow-up question you don't need answered. You let the pause fill in. Because arriving too fast has consequences you've felt before. The silence that follows. The looks exchanged. The way someone will say, "How did you even get there so quickly?" and mean it as a compliment, but deliver it like an accusation. Speed makes people uncomfortable, not because they dislike the answer, but because the gap between how long it took you and how long it would have taken them is suddenly visible. And visible gaps do something to people. So you introduced friction that wasn't there. You built in a delay, a performance of process. You made the working out visible even when you'd already worked it out. You gave the room time to feel like they were solving it with you, rather than watching you solve it without them. It's a small thing. It looks like nothing from the outside. But you've been doing it so long, you sometimes forget what it feels like to just answer. 6. You hide how quickly you read people. You walked in, and you already knew. Who was uncomfortable? Who was performing? Who had an agenda they weren't saying out loud? Who was threatened before you'd spoken a single word? You read it in the first 30 seconds, the micro-expressions, the word choices, the things conspicuously left unsaid. And then you hid it completely, because this one is the most threatening of all. People can accept that someone knows more facts than they do. What they struggle to accept, what produces a completely different kind of reaction, is someone who can see through them. Someone who tracks their real emotional state in real time, who isn't fooled by the performance. That doesn't feel like intelligence. It feels like surveillance. So you learned to react a beat slower than you actually process, to look surprised at things that didn't surprise you, to ask about feelings you'd already clocked 10 minutes earlier, to let people believe their performance landed. You made yourself less readable, to protect others from knowing how readable they are to you. 6 habits. None of them are flaws. Every single one of them is an intelligent adaptation, a response to a pattern you noticed early and never stopped noticing. You didn't start hiding because you were ashamed of your intelligence. You started hiding because you were smart enough to see exactly what it cost you not to. The question isn't whether these habits made sense. They did. The question is whether the rooms you're still hiding in are worth that price. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and check out many other similar videos on the channel.